So, hi everyone, it's Home Education Awareness Week, and I'm Cheryl from Educational Freedom. And we're going to be talking to Joanna about her experiences of home education. So, hi Joanna, would you
Hi
like to
there.
tell us a little bit about how you started home education?
Yeah, so I think pretty much from the moment my eldest was born, so like 9 years ago, I already dreaded sending him to school, which sounds so ridiculous because me and both my husband had gone through the school system. We actually went to school together. So that's all we'd kind of known. We didn't know anyone home educated, anything like that, but I was already dreading it from the get-go. And it literally I happened across a group, like a post online on a mum's group, and somebody said about home educating children, and I was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "Are you allowed to do that?" And they were like, "Yes." Yeah. So I was like, "Right, I'm going to go and do a load of research into it." And this was when my eldest was about 2, and I read about it, and I was like, "This is what I want to do." Like that, it just felt like that. It wasn't even. It was like I'd already made the choice. I just didn't even realize it because I didn't realize it was a thing that you could do. And it just completely, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. And my husband was really kind of not sure in the beginning. And I was like, read all these articles I found, read all this stuff. And he literally was on board from that point, basically. And then that's what we've always decided we were going to do from the age of
Fantastic.
2. Yeah.
How old are the children now?
So they're 9 and 7 now.
Okay. So in those first few months of sort of getting your head around it, obviously the children weren't of compulsory school age yet, but
No.
I imagine you had to go through a period of time to fully get school out of your mind. Was that an
Yeah.
issue?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even still to this day, sometimes I feel it's an issue still because I think you're almost so institutionalized by it. And then so many people around you. Obviously, we have a really big home ed community where we are, which we're really lucky, and we have a lot of good friends from there. Um, but it's really difficult to get that kind of expectation out of your head because you see like people posting on Facebook and things about their kids are doing this in school and that in school, and then you're like, oh, maybe they should be doing this or maybe they should be doing that. And then I kind of look at what they are doing, and I'm like, they're getting such a variety, and actually just school is just isn't the right fit for them. But it is still really hard sometimes to kind of get those expectations out of your head because that's kind of all you've known. So, we've not been home educated, so it's really difficult to remember that sometimes.
Yeah. So how do you approach home education then with your children?
So we're quite child led. So we go off of their interests. So sometimes my youngest in particular, he is very hyperactive, very active child. He doesn't like sit down things. So you have to be quite creative about how we get him to learn things. So YouTube videos are really, really helpful for that because he will sit and watch those if there's lots of flashing colors and all that kind of thing. But they do lots of kind of extracurricular activities. So they go horse riding, they do tennis, they go to an art class, like all these different things. My eldest is particularly interested in kind of like coding and things. He does a lot of like scratch coding and all these kind of all that kind of stuff online. He wanted to learn how to play chess, so we've done kind of chess kids online. They've done some sort of online lessons, but it was becoming a bit of an issue with my eldest. He kind of, once he was listening, he really enjoyed it, but I think he found it quite like difficult to kind of follow along with. He likes pre-recorded lessons rather than live ones, so we do that more than live ones because when we're doing kind of like online lessons, because he likes to pause it and be able to have time to like figure out the problem or whatever. He doesn't like being told the answer. He wants to figure it out. So that kind of is the kind of way for him to do it. Like he has to do it in his own way or his own time. But once he gets things, like he's really, particularly maths, like he was doing kind of GCSE level questions in his online lessons, but it's very much kind of, yeah, we like to be child led, really.
That's fantastic. What about outings? You said they go horse riding. Do you go to any home
Yeah.
ed clubs or other activities like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so we go to a home ed art class, which a load of our kind of home ed friends go to. We do tennis, which is also a home ed one. There's home ed bowling once a month that we go to as well. And then we kind of often arrange to meet up friends who will go like for park meets, or we'll go to the museum, or we'll kind of go to each other's houses, that kind of thing. So it's various different things as well. also, there's the kind of bigger trips that come out. Like there's one at the museum coming up soon, that we're all going to. That's a home ed one. We've been to like an animal park recently, which was a home ed kind of directed one, and there was a lot of home ed families there. So kind of like one of the school education type trips, but for home ed families. So we do a lot of those as well. But obviously they're not like a weekly thing. They're more of a intermittent thing, but weekly we go to sort of several groups that we see a lot of our home ed friends in. Sometimes it feels like we're out more than we're in, actually, to be fair, but that's a good thing, I think, because they're very active children, so it's good.
Yeah. So what do you think the future holds? Do you have any intention of ever trying school, or is the plan to just carry on home educating?
I think my plan is to continue home educating until they're much older. So if they decide when they're kind of teens that they want to go to school, then we would kind of have a discussion about that. I think I'm more aiming for them to kind of be home educated and then maybe go to college for kind of like higher like GCSEs and A levels and that kind of thing if they want to do that. But I think it's just kind of it's very much see how we go. It is one of those things that I think it's kind of continually evolving, which is quite nice. So, what they're interested in this week might be different next week. But it's kind of, there's things that like the horse riding, they also do music lessons as well. And they're kind of not non-negotiable, but they are something that I want them to continue with. I'm not like, right, we're not just going to quit that, because you've decided that you don't want to do it this week. But, there's kind of lots of other things that they get interested in. And there's so many ways, they love Minecraft, so you can do maths, English, science, all sorts of things around that. So yeah, typical Minecraft, but yeah. But
become a really important tool with home education.
It is,
it's
yeah.
valuable.
Yeah, it really is.
Are there any negatives that you found to the way you're home educating or your experiences?
I think sometimes, particularly when it's like half terms and things, obviously a lot of the home ed groups aren't on, even though it's obviously we're not kind of strict to term time. So I find that quite hard because you kind of get into a routine and then you're like, oh no, I've got to completely change the routine. And actually, those weeks kind of we generally tend to do a lot less actually because it's kind of like, okay, we can just actually chill and go for nice walks and all these kind of things and just do family things rather than, nipping here, there, and everywhere. I haven't had a lot of negative experience from people's like views on it. So when I've talked to people about home educating the boys, like everyone's really kind of interested and like, my gosh, that's really amazing. Like, how do you do that? And I've only ever had one negative interaction, which is actually with a family member. But otherwise, it's kind of been really quite positive. So I've not had any negative experiences in that aspect. I think the main thing is that people kind of meaning well, I think, are like, oh, are you ever, are you still home educating? Are you sending them to school? And I'm like, no, this is like a continual thing. Like we're not deciding next week that actually they're going to go to school now. And then, it's not kind of a fleeting thing. Yeah, exactly. We've been doing it from the beginning. It's not something that we're going to just suddenly change our mind about. So that's kind of one annoyance. But otherwise, I think it's mostly positive. And it's quite nice to be able to have lions sometimes if you need one as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember that well from when mine were younger.
Yeah.
If there was something you could say to somebody with a toddler who really doesn't like the idea of signing the young child up to school, what would you tell them?
I think the thing to do, I'd tell them to do obviously research into it to see what different styles there are, what sort of expectations there are. I think one of the main things as well is what kind of LEA they have. So obviously ours is actually really hands off and we've not had any issues. We've not had any kind of negative things. Obviously some LEAs are much stricter and want a lot more information or try and be a lot more intrusive. So I think definitely kind of join local groups to kind of get a feel of what your area is like. Have a look what kind of home ed community is. And I think also the most important thing is if you don't feel it's ready, or you're ready or they're ready, you can wait a year, delay a year if you feel that that's the best thing until they're kind of compulsory school age. You don't have to do anything. And I think the most important thing is just to be prepared and get as much information as you can. Because that's pretty much what I did. And then, that cemented my decision really.
So just to add to that, our organisation, Educational Freedom, can obviously support families with local authorities that are being problematic. And you're right about compulsory school age. I mean, a child doesn't have to be in education until the term after turning 5. And I think a lot of people at 3 are thinking they have to get them sent off.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been absolutely fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to tell people that are watching this?
I don't think so. I just think I think one of the main misconceptions that people have is, well, two things actually, that our children don't ever get to kind of mingle with other children, and I think that's the most ridiculous thing. That's the thing that annoys me the most, because my kids are the most social kids I think you'll ever meet. They talk to everyone, they include everyone, they literally go to the park and they make friends wherever we go, whereas I've seen kids that are in school uniform that kind of seem afraid to talk to them because they're not part of their social group. And it's just a massive misconception that, we're not keeping them in locked in cupboards and not letting them see daylight. That's not a thing. And also I think the fact that it needs to be really expensive, because I think obviously you can do lots of different things that are expensive, but there's also so many free resources, and there's so much more information out there now than I think there probably ever has been, that it's so much easier to do it now, that you don't have to, you don't have to be a teacher yourself. You don't have to have, degrees and all this knowledge, because you're almost like learning alongside your children as well. There's so much information out there, so it's not as scary as it seems.
Yeah, no, wise words, definitely. So thank you for talking to us, and we're hoping to maybe check in with everybody next year and catch up. So we'll see you hopefully in a year.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
No worries.